Okay, I've had numerous requests on how to set the Babylock Diana up for a cover stitch, so I thought I'd do a quick video on how to do it. Now, I'm going to have to reposition the camera several times to give you a good close-up view, and so what we're going to do first is we're going to replace this little cover with the one for the cover stitch, so you should have that for your machine, so get that ready. And I'm going from a 3-thread serge stitch, I should say, to a 2-thread wide cover stitch. You can do a 3-thread wide, but the difference is for the 2-thread wide, I'm going to use the green and the red and the 2 outside needles. And if you want a third one, just add the middle needle and thread the yellow. The one common thread for the looper is going to be the purple, so we'll show you how to do that also. So I'll just show you the steps to go from the 3-thread overlock stitch to the 3-thread cover stitch. So let me get the camera moved in and focus down on the first step, and we'll get started. Okay, first thing we need to do is to replace this plate with the cover stitch plate that's included with your machine. So, easy way to get this off is to simply pull this little tab up right here, and that will release it. So it comes off. When you're ready to replace it, you're just going to reverse that. Make sure that the 2 tabs are flush up against the plate like that, and just simply push it back into place, and it'll snap, and you're good to go. So again, to remove it, just simply pull up on this little tab right here, and that will release it. So now that we have that out of the way, we can install this one for your cover stitch. So we do the same thing as before. Get the 2 little tabs in the holes there. That's on top, and simply push it down, and that locks it into place. So go ahead and pull it up here, make sure everything looks flush, and it does. So we are good and ready to go there. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we need to disengage the upper looper. So let me show you that next. Okay, next we've got this little lever here that controls the position of our upper looper. So it's got an L on it pointing down, and that means it needs to be pulled down for the looper to be enabled for when you do your serging. But when we do our cover stitch, we need to disengage it because we don't use it, and it would hit the plate if it's engaged. So we need to disengage it. So it's got a little arrow in here showing you how to move this over to unlock it, and then you can push it up like that. Again, that's for cover stitch. You'll see a C pointing up, and then for your looper, for doing your serging, you will actually go down to your overlocking. So that's for the overlocking serging position. When you're out of cover stitch mode, you'll need to do that when you remove this plate and go back to doing your regular overlocking. But for cover stitch, we want to move it over and disengage it. So that's how you take care of that. So that's the next step to do. Now we'll move on to actually changing the needles out. So let's do that next. Okay, now we need to insert our needles into the cover stitch position. So I've removed them from the overlock needles, and I've tightened those 2 screws up nice and tight so that they won't vibrate loose. So one important thing when you're putting the needles in on the cover stitch side, there are 3 screws here. Always loosen all 3 of them. What you'll notice is that that middle one is tight. It's hard to get the left needle in. And matter of fact, when you're ready to remove the left needle, you have to loosen the middle one also. That's the only thing I don't care for on these home machines. On my industrial machines, I can loosen each one of those and they don't interfere with each other. But anyway, that's just the way it is. So be sure and loosen all 3 of them nice and loose before you start putting your needles in. So I'm going to put the right needle in first. And you can line it up with the right hole to kind of give you an alignment mark as to when you're going in it. So I push it up, and I can barely see it hit the stop at the top there. So if you kind of look from the top down, you'll see the needle hit the stop. Once it does, go ahead and tighten your right needle. And now we're going to do the far left needle because we're going to do a wide cover stitch. So we come over and I can see this one more clearly come up to the top. So I'm going to tighten the left. Good and tight. Kind of pull on it, make sure it's in there securely. Now, after they're both in, I'm going to tighten the middle one. Double check, make sure everything's good and tight. And our needles are in and we're good to go. And what you'll notice is your left needle is up higher than your right needle is, and that's normal. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, first thing we need to do is we're moving from a 3-thread overlock stitch to a 3-thread cover stitch, and that's a 2 needle wide. So we need to move our looper thread, our lower looper thread over to the looper for the cover stitch. So it's the purple one, it's the one on the outside. I'm going to take our thread now. I've got the end of the thread down here in my right hand. Hold it tight, pull it through the little hook there, pull it around the guide, make sure our foot is up, and it is up, and then we're going to bring it down, hold it a little bit tight and bring it down through the tension disc here. And let me move the camera and I'll show you how to do the bottom part. Okay, now we're going to thread the lower part. This is the purple thread, so it's your looper on your cover stitch. So we're going to bring it in through this little guide here. Turn your wheel until this aligns with the little purple hook under here. So that'll make it easy to come through all of them at once. So, okay, so we come through there. First thing we have to do is come through this hook right here. Get that in place. So that's our purple. And then we're just going to drop it through the first 2 set. Yeah, come on. Right there. Fairly easy to get through. And since this is lined up down here, we just drop it down through there and come up the hook. You'll see the little purple hook there. So we've got that taken care of. So the next thing to do is, let me turn the hand wheel to get this pulled out some. We've got hang on, it's hard for me to see, the camera's in the way. There's a purple hook right here. See if I can hit it. There we go. Need to go through it. So we pull our thread, we can see it come through here, come through there, everything looks good. The next thing we need to do is get it through the looper. So we have this little hook right here that we can hook our thread around. So pull it around like that, pull the thread this way and push the lever back, and that will have it catch on the back side of the looper. And then all we have to do is, let me let it unravel. Come through this needle right here, which is the furthest one out. Easier said than done. Thread has a lot of fuzz on it. Okay, the biggest problem is it getting caught on things, so just make sure that you can pull on it freely and that it flows at this point. So at that point it's threaded. You can just leave this thread down here. I'm going to cut it off. It doesn't need to be as long, so cut it off like that. Just leave enough where it can catch. And we're going to go ahead and close the cover. So that takes care of that. That is threaded and ready to go. So next thing we'll do is move over to threading our needles and show you how that's a little bit different. And so let me get the camera set up for the needles again. We'll go through that and we'll be ready to go. Okay, now we're going to thread our needles. So you're going to notice on the right side of the take-up lever here, there are 3 little fingers setting like this on this side. Then when you come around, there are 3 other fingers. So I'm going to pull the red through first, which is the left needle, and I'm only going to go through the inside part of the 3 fingers, so the one closest to the machine, over the take-up lever, and then through the outside part over here. Then lay my thread. So make sure that that's caught under there, pull it, make sure everything looks good. Now I'm going to do the green thread, which is our right needle. That's normally your upper looper. And I pulled on that, it ended up going to the outside. I need it on the inside. So you just kind of have to keep your eye on this. Now it's on the correct position. Okay, now I'll pull this through and it goes on the outside. So on the 3 fingers, the far outside. We come up over, and this time it goes through the inside. So what we're going to do is we're going to thread the green, the inside needle first. So on the top, you've got a little spring lever up here. And you need to take your thread to the right of it, pull it through, and go. It has 3 fingers on it also. Go to the one all the way to the right. Then there's another bar above the needle. Slip it around it so everything slips from the left side to the right side. And I can see my thread already came up here. So just keep double checking your path. Make sure everything's still lined up properly. Get it through the needle. Searcher thread is kind of fuzzy. Okay, now we're doing this left side needle, so we want to verify and make sure again that it's through all the grooves. This time we're going to take it through to the left side. So there's a finger there on the left side. We got it through that, and we bring it around this bar here. We don't want it tangled or twisted. Okay, so it's through that bar. I'll go ahead and cut my thread. It's getting kind of frayed on the end. Okay, take it down and put it through the needle. Okay, now I'm just going to double check everything. It's through the correct fingers there. On that side it's through the correct. It's under, so everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and put my foot on. Before I put my foot on, I'm going to take my thread and put it through the opening of my foot. Get all of them straight. Let me get the correct one going through the correct groove here. It just makes it easier than doing it after you put your foot on. So get them out there long enough where you've got enough slack to get everything through, and just pull them through and put your foot on. So that just makes it a little bit easier. To get started on your cover stitch. So the foot's on now, you can lift it up, take your threads, pull them to the back, and you'll be ready to go. Okay, let me get some fabric now, and we'll get set up and we'll do the test stitch. One of the things you want to do, hang on a minute, let me show you. Refocus the camera. You want to do the auto tension dial, you want to change it over to H. So if you look on page, I think it's page 50 in the manual, it gives you the settings. So we do H. I got my stitch length set on N, which is the standard length. And the other thing you want to look at, let me show you this real quick. This stitch finger needs to be pulled back to the rolled hem position. That gets it out of the way so it's not interfering with the looper, is all that does. So get that pulled back, and let's see, we've got everything else set up on N. Your knife should be disengaged, so make sure that you pull the knife over and down and get it out of the way. And that's on R. Make sure that you're not doing any differential feed. Have that set on N. That's on the left side of your machine, and we should be ready to go. So let me get some fabric and we'll do some test stitching. Okay, I've got some muslin here. I've just kind of folded it over roughly a 1/2 inch. And the idea is to split the needle kind of over the edge there. So the needles, that edge should go in between the two needles roughly. So get everything set up as suggested. Foot. And let's see what happens. Here we go. Trying to follow along, trying to keep that fold in the middle, in between the two needles, as close as I can. And before you start, double check the top and make sure the thread is coming through the guides and nothing is caught, and make sure the thread is in the tension disc too, so save yourself some time. Okay, to remove your fabric, raise your foot. Go ahead and pull the fabric a little bit. Turn the hand wheel in reverse, one full turn. That will release the thread where you can pull it out. And there's a technique where you can actually get everything pulled out to the bottom side also, and you can do a search and find that online. So there's our cover stitch side. Looks like I've got, probably need to put a new needle in. I've got a skip stitch right there. So, and I need to double check. I think, yep, I see what's going on here. Let me find my tweezers. That's why I said double check everything. And me messing around with this thread, it's not in between the tension disc. And I felt it pop in there. So that's why I said double check everything, make sure everything is still good. So let me raise the foot up and double check and make sure that that is pulled into that tension disc. There we go. Okay, I've got another piece of fabric here we'll test with. Okay, here we go. Raise the foot, pull on it a little bit, reverse one stitch, and it releases. There we go. Okay, you can see the difference it made now that I made sure the left one was in the tension disc. So do a little test first, just as I did, and it's real easy to miss something that's simple. But again, make sure, like on mine, I've got my stitch regulator set at H. I've got my length at N, and I don't have the differential feet on anything but N, so it's not pulling the fabric anything other than even. Make sure that the stitch finger right here is on rolled hem, so you'll want to open this up, make sure this is pulled back to rolled hem, and just verify all that. Do a test. Once your test looks good, you should be ready to go. Be sure and do test on the fabric that you're going to be using. That'll tell you if you've got any tension issues, if nothing's laying flat, if you're getting a lot of tunneling. On this thin stuff, you're always going to see, like on this, you can see probably just a little bit of a tunneling effect. Pressing that will take care of that. But if you see anything beyond that, usually means your tension's a little bit tight. You need to loosen it up just a tad, and that'll make a difference. But anyway, that's how you convert it over to a cover stitch. And if, as usual, you have any questions, post them in the comment sections. I'll do my best to answer them. Take care.